And then I came up with the idea. I was like, hey, well, since it's for an archery place, what if we made it look like an arrow? And now I just went from like a few cuts to a whole bunch of cuts. We are at VIP Billiards, where I had made a whole bunch of these tables for the pool hall. A customer had seen them and requested that I make a couple of them for his archery range. So I came up with the idea, because I like to make things harder than they really are. So I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew on this one. Is what about, instead of just gluing up a whole bunch of boards like I did with this project, that I inlay an arrow on the inside. So I am going to try to figure out how to make an arrow inside this table for the archery range. But before I do, maybe a couple games of pool. Overall length of the table is going to be 72 inches by 18 inches. So that would be the arrowhead. I was trying to think of the arrow shaft itself, and that should be this wide, which might be easier because of the pieces that I'm cutting also, versus I was thinking about ripping down a piece that was this wide. I think I like that version better. I mean, literally going to be a lot of cuts. I'll have to say that woodworking is sort of like working out in the gym. If you don't do it for a while, you get out of sequence, you get out of training. You're not as sharp as you normally are, if that's the right analogy that I'm trying to use. And the reason that starting to make my first cuts and I feel like I'm a little out of sorts, and I got everything set up and I'm cutting my first piece, and I didn't realize that I didn't even turn on the vacuum for the dust collection on that last cut. So the extra step that I'm taking is, if you look at this side, this board was purposely cut so that this edge matches the grain. The grain matches all the way down. So the first piece we're going to cut is going to be this triangle right here. Cut out one more strip right along here, roughly, after I've cut out this triangle, so that this way the grain going this way matches. If I don't, this will be over here, and the rest of the grain will be pushed over that way. It'll just look out of line when you look at it from this end. All right, the arrow is finally complete. I have all my grain kind of going the same direction, which I really do like. What my plan is next is I'm going to glue down this centerpiece. Actually, I'm going to tape it. I'm going to double side tape this piece and probably the arrowhead too. And this way I know that they're perfectly aligned, and then I can glue all the other pieces down to the board and as well into the sides of the adjoining pieces. And then when that's done, then I can trim the whole thing to its final size, and then put the edge going all the way around it, router that, and so forth. What would you know? Of course, it had to be the last nail I was shooting in today. And I'm smarter than that. I am. I never keep my fingers that close to where a nail is getting shot in. That thing curled. That's a 2.5 inch nail. Went through the finger and went through the tip of the thumb and then out through the nail as I was holding it somewhere like this, and shot it in there to be the last nail I was going to shoot to get this board done, to get this tabletop part done. That hurt. But all right, I'm going to get that nail out and then probably maybe call it quits for the day, because my thumb is really starting to throb right now. But when I built this one, I was basically doing it piece by piece. So cut the board, then made the piece for the arrow. After cutting the arrow, then I had to make the piece for this. So it was constantly going from tool to tool to tool putting everything together. So on this version of the table, I'm going to try things a little bit differently. I know how the puzzle pieces are going to work this time. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to glue down my arrow first, and I'm actually going to screw it in from the bottom too. So this way it'll be perfectly straight, it won't move, and then I can work all the other pieces off of that. So once I finish the arrow, I won't do the feathers, but I'll do the top, then these pieces, then I'll probably glue all the feathers together and then finish the bottom. All right, I will have to say that was easier said than done. So next we're going to finish off the top, and then we'll work our way down to the bottom. Rather than gluing them one at a time on the board, I opted to glue the feathers and the spacers together. So this way I can make a nice even cut. And once this is all sanded, it should be a lot flatter and more even than on the other tabletop that we did. Here we are on another day. Let this one glue up overnight only because I was tired. I was done for the day. It was humid, hot and humid, and I was good to go. So we're going to see if doing it this way actually paid off. It does look like it worked. My seams look pretty tight compared to the other arrows that I've done on the other table, the arrow feathers I did on the other table. I think this worked out. I just have to make a clean edge here. And the way I'm going to have to do that is creating a jig on the table saw and have to cut it from there. My saw, that other saw that I was using, is definitely not wide enough to cut this piece off. So I don't know if I just made it worse or better, this situation. Okay, I got a nice straight edge off of that. Now for the test to see how well it fits inside the arrow. That worked. I think we're good to go. This is the sled for my old table saw. So I am going to put the T-tracks back in for the rest of this project. So this way I can use the table saw instead of using the miter saw. So this side, I glued all the feathers and the spacers together and then trimmed it to put it on the board, one big piece. This one, I set up the table saw with this setup, and using that same angle, I was able to achieve the same thing as doing this. Because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, this was the last piece that goes in here. I cut that correctly, but when I put it in, I put it in upside down. So when I cut the edge off to make it easier to do the cleanup over there, I realized I got the grain going in the wrong direction. It should have went in this way. And if I didn't cut the piece, it would have been fine. I probably would have caught it before I glued it in. I think I'm going to glue the whole thing back together again, because if you can see closely, if I line it up here, the line is off because of the curve, the width of the curve. So this is not lining up. But if I slide this way, the grain does line up again, but it doesn't line up over here because that's the width of the curve. So if I glue these together, let that dry, sand it, probably won't even know that that's there, and they can trim that off and then glue it in the right way. I realized that when I was laying in bed that I thought I had bought enough lumber to build 2 of these tables, and I realized I did not. I thought that each leg was going to require, like this leg and this leg was one long piece. This leg and this leg was one long piece. But in essence, this leg is really doubled up with 2 more pieces down there. This one is doubled up also. Then you have this cross piece here. Well, I'll show you in the front. This cross piece here actually requires 1 full length. This one requires a full length. This one requires a full length. This is a full length. So that's 4 pieces right there. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you have these blocks down in here. It's probably another 9. I had bought, to do the arrow as well, I had bought originally 8, and then I bought another 8, and I spent all day yesterday planing. It was 8 boards, thinking that that was going to be enough. I just finished this one and realized it's not going to be enough. I have 2 boards there. I have a board in the garage. I have a couple of boards that I haven't even planed at all yet from an older project that I can use, but I'm still going to be short. So I'm going to take a little break from woodworking to take care of the lawn, and that will give me time to think about the strategy on building the next table and how I'm going to do this, if it's possible to do this without going to the store again, because I really don't want to go to the store. But it is what it is. If I have to, I have to. As I'm working on this project, I getting all stressed out. It's like, all right, what do I got to do? I got to do this first. I gotta finish this side, and I got to do this side. Then I have to put the border around it. Then I have to router it. Then I'm gonna have to stain both tops, and then I have to build the basis for it. And my brain just keeps going and going and going, and it becomes a little overwhelming. If you look at it as just one project at a time, I think it gives your mind a little time to rest or to turn off a little bit. And I didn't let it stress me out going, well, hurry up and do this because you still have 50 other things you still have to do before this job is done. I was like, no, let me just focus on this one as if this was the only thing I was going to do today. So it kind of like slowed me down a little bit where I'm not getting overwhelmed. And mentally, I have the energy to keep going. So I guess the final thought on it is, don't let the job overwhelm you. Break it down into simple tasks and just take each task as if it was the only thing you were going to do that day. So you can give all your focus just to that one task rather than having to think about all the tasks that you have to do in order to complete the job.